Anyway, launching right in then. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is a very quaint and beautiful and picturesque game that takes place in the fictional world of The Legend of Zelda, which is home to the characters Link and Zelda in every incarnation of them through all different consoles of Nintendo through the years. This one, you're up on these floaty islands, sort of James Cameron Avatar-y island-esque, in the middle of the sky, as it were, right? Everyone flies birds called loft wings because we can't just call. Oh, and I told you we named him Skylar instead of Link. So yeah, you're that far. You're that far, right? Yes. So Skylar goes running off and everything, and Zelda gets captured, and there she goes, and oh my goodness, we need to play more harp music together, which she actually does play a harp, so that's not a romantic whatever, not innuendo. Maybe it is. That just has such a dirty connotation. I didn't mean it that way. So anyway, you're after her and her royal blondness, the heiress apparent to whatever the goddess is, just powers, and you're the goddess's agent, I guess, because you have the goddess's sword, and you hit goddess's crates with the sky slash, and they go up to the sky place, and you get them. And so you find the crates, and you go down to the ground, and the ground has been unknown to the Skyloft people for years and years and years and years, because they're like, oh no, there was a big war and darkness took it over, and now we're just like, ground, it's down there somewhere, and everybody's like, oh, it's passed into myth and legend. There's no ground, it's just everything above the clouds, and for some reasons, nobody's birds can go below the clouds. They're clouds, right? So whenever you want to go below the clouds, the goddess statue, it has a thing that it like shoots a light beam, and then the beam shoots a light beam from the ground up through the clouds, and then it like breaks the cloud layer, and you go down through the cloud, and you dive down there, and you use the sailcloth that Zelda gave you to win this bird flying race at the beginning, which was a terrifying way to get thrown into the world of bird flying. You had done 0 before this point. I mean, you probably honestly could have, just by jumping off the edge of this sky place, because that's how they get around. You can't just summon your bird and then fly off. You have to jump off the freaking edge of whatever island you're on, and you have to do like a running jump. I found that out the hard way today, which is the 4th day I've played this game, not the 1st nor 2nd. By the way, the flying thing happened on the 2nd day. So I don't know why in the world they decided, hey, you're an integrated member of this community and society up above the clouds. We're not going to teach you how to fly your stinking giant red bird until day 2. Even though you've been doing this all your life, apparently, which I still don't know if that's valid or not, or if they just made that up, and they're throwing us all into this, brainwashed sort of half memory, and it's turned into Total Recall. But I digress. We come back to our hero as he plunges through the clouds after Miss Zelda, who plunged through the clouds after a giant tornado, took both you and she off of your birds during a flight, and which she was about to utter a very romantic something like, hey, you're a really great guy, and then she just gets knocked off her bird and falls to the ground. You follow her, of course, being the dashing hero that you are, and I love Link because he's got this sort of young, roguish naivety about him, but he's capable, so he's like Sora from Kingdom Hearts. He's got a strong sense of justice, good heart, decent brain on him, and, can use all the gadgets, heck of a fighter, and he just goes. It's like, hey, this guy's really powerful, so remember to, and he just goes. He's like, okay, thanks, go. So you go, and you find yourself in a very nice forest. You meet Gorko the Goron, who calls you Bud, and I love him. He's awesome. Hey there, Bud. And he tells you about things. And you're sorry, Gorkon, peace out. Have fun doing your archaeological research. I need to go rescue a blonde lady that I play harp music with. Actually, okay, I've said that wrong twice now. She's the only one that plays the harp. You just listen and then do these dorky Nintendo character protagonist smiles, which are, endearing and cute. But come on, man, speak poetry to the lady. She plays harp music, and she's the heiress apparent to goddess powers. You at least could do something besides go and get a slingshot and then run after her wherever she goes. But that's what he does, and he does it brilliantly. His slingshot's a good tool, don't get me wrong. It's not as cool as the flying, remote control bug thing that's also a bracelet, I guess, because you launch it off your wrist, and it's massive. And then when you put it away, which why would you? Because it's just a wrist bracelet, so can't you just keep it on your wrist instead of your increasingly limited space in your travel pouch that you can't put your empty bottles into, even if they're full with potion stuff? And I don't care. I might find a potion laying out in the picturesque forest or the lava place, which I haven't even gotten to yet. But I would rather just, leave the empty bottle so that I can carry one money, which, with which I could buy a filled bottle or like another shield, because your shields have a mechanic in this game where they break after a certain amount of use. So that's also dumb. So anyway, we're moving along through the forest world. You go to a temple, and Zelda's been there, and your sword has a guardian chick named Fi. I think it's Fi. How do you pronounce that? And so you're like, hey, Fi, and she's like, okay, we're gonna use dowsing, which is not scanning or sensing, but it totally is. And Nintendo, I don't know if the like cultural exchange team had trouble with that word in particular, but it is straight up just like radar location with using the tip of your sword and this kind of bleep bleep thing. But every time she calls it dowsing or dowsing, I get it might not because dowsing, is like with like the power of Christ compel you kind of thing, which apparently they don't have. They're also a monotheistic society, but they have a goddess, and she's usually depicted with like angel wings and can impart her powers to mortals who may or may not be mortal. I guess we haven't figured out the entire lifespan of Zelda. So you get through the forest place, and there's a temple, and you fight a thing, and there's this really creepy bat guy who's like flamboyantly creepy, and so he's wonderfully constructed, and he's full of these like not sequin rhombuses. There are rhombuses all over this guy, and so when he like he snaps his finger, and there's like a cloud of rhombuses that are there, and then they fade away after him. And so Rhombus guy, I guess. I couldn't pronounce his name. The first is like Girahim, which sounds more Lord of the Ring-ish than anything of the Zelda world. But there you have it. That's him. So he's looking for his master, and you can tell they set him up as like the head villain, and then you bump into him every once in a while. He's like, I'm going to send this guy after you. And you're like, oh, well, shoot, I'd rather just kill you and be done with it. But he's like, nah, I'll see you later, Rhombus. And so you make your way through that. You get your way to the volcano. You climb up the volcano. There's this whole thing to find the 5 pieces of the key to the temple, in which there are many other doors with keys. And the whole time the clock's ticking down, because you keep hearing from these delightfully jovial digging species things that pop out of the ground. One's named Lead, and he gave you a bag full of bombs. That's all I can tell you. But they just keep saying, hey, we saw a blonde thing that looks like you get dragged off by some guys, and she was like kicking and screaming. And so you get this sense of urgency, but then 4 minutes later, as you're finding the 3rd piece to the key to the place that has more keys in it, that sense of urgency is gone until one of them says it again to make you then again feel that sense of urgency. And this all culminates after a pretty satisfying boss battle with the revelation that Zelda is fine. She's been fine this whole time. She's off on this like side quest thing to become the goddess apparent, and so she's like cleansing herself in these springs, whatever the flipping heck that means. I guess I didn't touch the spring water, so maybe if I dipped a toe in, I could also be a cleric or a harp-playing cleric, I guess, who smiles sweetly and doesn't get to say things before a tornado knocks her off a bird that you don't learn to fly until day 2. So Zelda, you see her at the end of the volcano temple. It's like, hey, what's up, peace? And then you do the smile, and there's the connection. And then she has this bodyguard girl that I guess, like this tall, dark hair, I don't know, who like puts a hand between you two. And it's all very junior high, you're at the bottom of the stairs and Zelda's at the top, and then she just like puts the hand out, and she's like, no, you need to go through the portal thing that I just made appear here, because you can't talk to him because you need to focus on your task at hand. So I guess they don't have time to say, hey, what's up? I do like you, glad you're alive. But guess what? They do, because just before she steps in the portal, she turns around and says, hey, I'm sorry, I have to go. Good luck. We'll see you soon. And then she steps in, and it's nice. It's nice that happened. But then the Guardian chick, as soon as Zelda's through, looks back at you and says, hey, you were too late. And you look at her and go, if it weren't for the effing keys, I would have been early. Also, you're fine and Zelda's fine. So cool your tits, Guardian. And Guardian's like, okay, well, what you need to do now is face all your trials so that you're strong enough to help her when the time comes. And you're like, wait a second. You just said I'm too late. Now you're telling me that I need to go do what are the even trials? She doesn't answer that. I was hollering, indeed, at my TV. And all I got out of it was them walking through this portal thing. And then apparently they're just gone. And I need to figure out what the freaking heck these trials are. But lo and behold, the goddess is, I don't know, playing a prank on you, because she sends another tablet that opens another light beam into the clouds into another place. And this time, it's a desert, and there's a temple called the Temple of Time. What will befall our hero in the Temple of Time? Well, I'm guessing some sort of time travel, because that happens in every stinking Zelda game. And honestly, they make the time travel mechanics very cool and part of the puzzle, so well done them. But I'm not excited to just go questing off on these trials when I know basically where Zelda's gonna be next. The next temple, I guess, dipping her toe in the spring water that I can't touch. And I need to go find her with Fee and my sword the whole time saying, hey, you need to hustle up and find Zelda. And I'm going, I know. That's what I've been doing this whole game. And since puberty, thank you, Fee. I'm at least 17 years old given my bird handling skills. And I do actually mean a bird. So now we're headed back to the bazaar to buy a life medallion because I have a treasure medallion, which is really nice because it just makes money appear from everywhere. And I have an upgraded shield, which shouldn't break as soon as the other shields. There was actually a time when my wooden shield was totally burned to a crisp. And I went for a solid about 3 hours of gameplay with no shield, and you can't block with your sword. So there was much rolling and much swinging of my sword just to be on the defensive by being on the offensive. Surprisingly, it worked really freaking well. But at this moment, we're waiting to buy some more gear. We're going to drop through the clouds into the desert. I like a good desert in a video game. It's cool. Nice open vista, expansive. I don't feel the heat, so that's also nice too. And we're going to see what happens at the Temple of Time. It's going to be a good time.
That sounds so nice.